Most people assume that serving inside a king's palace meant safety, comfort, and a closeness to power most women on this island would never get near. You have calluses across both palms, a debt on your body nobody asked you to agree to, and a house that will decide what your loyalty was worth on a day you don't get to pick. You live inside a household that runs on more than family. The oikos, the house, is an economy. Grain bins, looms, wine jars, herds, and the bodies that keep all of it moving. You are one of those bodies. Not a wife, not a daughter, not free. A woman bought, captured in a raid, or born into the house the way the looms were built into it, owned the same way the grain is owned. For years, the halls of this house have belonged to someone else. 108 armed men have moved in, uninvited, sons of the island's leading families, feasting on the herds and waiting for the absent king's wife to choose one of them as her next husband. Someone has to serve their wine, someone has to wash their linens, light their fires, and share their beds when refusal is not a real option. That someone is you, and it has been you for a very long time. There is no institution on this island built to hear your side of anything. Justice here runs through the head of the household, and the head of the household has been gone for 2 decades. In his absence, power in this house has quietly transferred to whichever suitor shouts loudest at dinner, and none of them answer to anyone but themselves. Somewhere in this house, someone has already begun keeping a private account of who has stayed loyal through the siege and who has not. You do not know yet whose name is on it, or what it will be used for. You fetch the water, you grind the grain, you weave the wool that will end up on someone else's back. This is the shape of every day, in the same order, for years. Then one dawn the water jar cracks in your hands at the spring, and you do not stop, and you do not report it because stopping is not a category this house allows for you. You spend the morning at the loom, weighing out wool by the basket, then hauling water again, then folding linen that other hands will dirty again within the hour. You sleep in a shared room off the courtyard, with no door of your own and no lock on the one that exists. None of this earns you a wage. You are fed because a working body needs fuel, not because the house owes you anything. You can be handed to another household the way a jar or a loom is handed over, and the arrangement would not require your signature because it was never going to ask for one. There is a rank order even among the unranked. Some of you are trusted with the storerooms and answer only to the nurse. Some are kept at the mill, grinding barley until their shoulders round forward permanently and their knuckles thicken past use. Some are sent to the hall floor because the suitors prefer to be served by someone young. Nobody assigns these positions to you kindly, and nobody moves you out of one once your body starts to fail at it. There is no retirement in this house. There is only work you can still do and work you can no longer do, and the second category has no plan attached to it at all. When an older maid's hands finally give out at the mill, nobody replaces her wage, because there was never a wage to replace. Someone simply moves her to lighter tasks, if there are any left, and moves someone younger to the mill in her place. By evening, the real work starts. The great hall fills with the suitors, and someone has to carry the wine jars between rows of tables while they shout, gamble, and slaughter the family's herds for their own dinner. 2 oxen and a dozen goats, most nights for years. None of it theirs to kill. You pour for men who decided, seasons ago, that the queen's household and everything inside it will belong to one of them eventually. You are already counted as part of what they expect to inherit. Refusing a suitor is not a private decision. These are armed men who have occupied a king's house for years and faced no consequence for any of it. You have deflected 6 of them so far this year, each time hoping it ends there. Saying no risks his temper and his friends at the next table, and a queen who cannot remove 100 men from her own hall, let alone protect a servant from one of them. Say yes buys you safety tonight and destroys you later, though nobody explains that part until later has already arrived. Upstairs, the queen weaves a burial shroud by day and unravels it by night. a stalling tactic to delay remarriage, and every person below her depends on that stalling working. Stalling does not feed you. It does not stop a suitor's hand closing on your arm in a dark corridor while the queen sleeps 2 rooms away, unaware. Her resistance will be remembered for 3,000 years. Yours will not be remembered at all, because no one is writing verses about the maid who poured the wine and prayed the night would end quietly. Then there is the old nurse, Eurycleia, who has run this household longer than anyone alive. She watches everything from the doorway of the storeroom. She keeps a private accounting of who has stayed loyal and who has not, and she updates it without telling you. You live under 2 forms of judgment at once: a suitor's temper if you refuse him, and the nurse's memory if you don't. There is no version of this arrangement that leaves you simply unbothered. Escape is not a plan either. Some of you were taken as girls from villages on other islands, burned out by raiders in the years before this siege began. There is no family across the water to send for you. No law on Ithaca that would take your side over a nobleman's, and no ship leaving this harbor that would carry you anywhere but further from home. 20 years is a long time to hold a household together with a king who never writes and may already be dead. You did not choose the siege sitting on top of your life. You are simply standing inside it every single day, with nowhere else standing to run to. Not every maid in this house makes the same calculation. Some grow close to the suitors deliberately, trading information and favor for protection while the siege drags on, betting that the men currently in power will still be in power tomorrow. Others keep their heads down and hope neutrality reads as loyalty later. Both groups are guessing. Neither guess is safe, and there is no way to know in advance which one the household will decide, after the fact, was the wrong one. The 7th suitor does not accept deflection the way the first 6 did. You will not be the one who decides how that ends. Then a beggar arrives at the gate, sunburned and filthy, ignored by the men currently eating the estate's cattle. He is handed scraps and insults at the threshold, and you have no reason to look at him twice. You will look at him again by tomorrow morning. The next morning a contest is announced. String the king's old hunting bow, and the winner marries the queen. 108 men try. None of them can even bend the wood far enough to set the string. The beggar asks for a turn, and the suitors laugh at him for asking. Then he strings it in a single motion, and the laughing stops all at once. The doors of the hall are already barred from the inside, bolted earlier that morning by the king's son, on quiet instructions nobody explained to the household staff. The armor that usually hangs on the walls for decoration has already been carried upstairs and locked away, so the suitors reach for weapons that are no longer there. The beggar puts his first arrow through a man's throat, mid-swallow, wine cup still in hand, before anyone in the hall understands the game has already ended. What follows is not a fight so much as a culling. Trapped men, 1 exit, and 4 armed people holding it. By the time the doors are unbarred again, 108 men are dead on the floor of a hall built for feeding them. You are given no time to process any of it. You are handed a task instead. Carry seawater and sulfur, scrub the blood from the tile, drag out what is left of the men you poured wine for the night before, and do it fast, because the house has to look like a house again before the sun is fully up. While you are still on your knees with the sponge, the old nurse starts pointing. The private tally she has kept for years, the one nobody named for you back at the start, finally has a use. She reads 12 names from it. The ones, she says, slept with the suitors, whether by choice, by fear, or because refusal once meant something worse than compliance. Nobody asks which. That distinction did not survive the last 20 years, and it is not going to be drawn now, in a hall still wet with someone else's blood. The returned king gives the order himself. His son ties the ship's cable between the pillar and the roundhouse roof. You did not choose the siege. You did not choose the tally. You will not choose the rope either. It is called a clean death, quicker than the sword. And the choice of method is offered as mercy, as if speed were the same thing as fairness. You are marched into the courtyard in a line, and the space beneath the beam has been measured for exactly 12. The poem recording this moment gives it 4 lines. It compares you and the other 11 to birds caught in a snare, wings beating against nothing, and then it moves straight on to the next order of business. Because the story being told is not yours. It is a story about a king getting his house back. The record states, "Order was restored to the house of Odysseus that day." The record does not list which 12 paid the fee for restoring it. History remembers the king who came home in disguise and reclaimed what was his. It remembers the wife who outweighted 100 men with nothing but a loom and a lie about a shroud. It does not remember your name. One or two of the 12 get named in passing. The rest are a number, filed next to the blood on the floor and the furniture that needed resetting afterward. For most of 3,000 years, no version of this story stopped to ask what a woman in your position could have realistically done differently. The king who ordered the rope is called wise. The son who tied it is called grown into a man that day. Only in the last few decades have any retellings paused on the courtyard scene long enough to ask whose choice this actually was. And even those arrived 28 centuries too late to change the length of the rope. The ending has never changed. Order restored, hero praised, 12 women hanged in a hall built for someone else's feast, and nobody circling back in real time to ask what choice you actually had. Most people still assume palace service meant safety, comfort, a closeness to power worth whatever it cost. It was never any of those things. Not for you and not for the 11 women hanging beside you from the same beam.